Debby Campbell is a country music singer and activist for Alzheimer's. She's the eldest of 8 children and the daughter of the most famous Rhinestone Cowboy, Glen Campbell. Debby loved singing from an early age and spent many summers with her dad on tour and in the television studios with his Glen Campbell Goodtime Hour television show. And Debbie's on the line with us here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So when did you first realise that your dad was famous?
Well, when I was growing up, he sang and everything, but he was, out there on tour all the time, but probably when I was more of a teenager and I got to spend a lot more time with him, around all the fans, the craziness of his life, And
was there a particular moment that you realised, wow, a lot of people are coming to see my dad? This is weird.
Yeah, one of the times I remember very well was he was doing a BBC special in England, and I was living in England at the time. I graduated from high school over there. But I was with him and we were walking out to the car and I was ahead of him and I turned around and I see all these fans running after him. And I'm like, Dad, get in the car. Oh my gosh, they're going to rip your clothes off. And I grabbed him and put him in the car, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
What were the sort of emotions attached to that? I mean, was there an element of pride there that your dad had all these fans?
Oh, absolutely. Of course. Lots of pride. My dad was just so well loved. And he was just such a great guy, very humble. And I had great pride, especially as I grew older and got to be, experience singing with him and just the love that everybody had for him.
It must have been a great learning experience to sing with him and watch him perform as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So when did you realise that you were a good singer too?
Well, I always dabbled in singing when I was younger. Yeah. I think I first sang in the 8th grade in a talent show and got a standing ovation and everybody loved it. But I never really clicked then, back when I was younger. And then I sang with the rock and roll band. Well, wasn't rock and roll. Well, I guess maybe it was. It's called Sky People in Los Angeles when I went to live with Dad after I graduated from high school. But still, I was just having fun, And then I moved to Phoenix in 1987 when my ex-husband got out of the military. And Dad was singing at the state fair here. And I said, Dad, can I sing a song with you? And he said, sure. So we worked up Burning Bridges and I sang that with him on stage and everybody seemed to love it. And he loved it. And he's like, honey, I'd like you to go on the road with me.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'll try and make it work. And that same year, I had just gotten a job with America West Airlines in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And so then began my life, my 25 years of juggling two schedules, singing with Dad and my airline job, as well as being a mom with 3 kids.
Yeah. They're 2 very different jobs, but they have similarities because being a flight attendant and a musician, they both involve traveling around a lot.
A lot of hotels and airplanes.
Yeah. Are you the kind of person that likes to be on the road then?
Well, I think because my stepfather was in the Air Force, so we moved around every 4 years, and I lived with my mom, of course, and him. And so I'm just used to being uprooted a lot, I guess, is for lack of a better, statement. And so, yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy seeing different cities, different countries. And I've been very blessed to do that with both jobs.
And when you were singing in those early days, were you just performing with your father or did you have your own thing going on as well?
Well, when we moved to Branson, I think in the early 90s, like 91. And I was singing with Dad. And then I started a band and I was performing with another band as well as keeping my airline job, mind you.
Yeah.
And the Branson years, I had my own show at a theater in Branson as well as going and singing with Dad at night in his show. So I kept pretty busy.
Being solo, did that feel odd at first or was it completely natural?
I think it was completely natural. I like being a part of something, I love doing the duets with Dad, but it was also fun having my own show and other people performing on it. I had a couple of different shows in Branson. I had my own Debby Campbell show. And then I had a second generation show where I had, like Noel Haggard, Merle Haggard's son, and Grandpa Jones's grandson.
Wow.
And, different kids from different genres.
And what kind of genres did you do? I guess it wasn't just country. And what I'm really getting at is, was it different from your dad?
Yeah, well, yeah, some of it was, but then some of it wasn't. I remember opening for Jerry Reed, and I was with Michael Twitty, Conway Twitty's son, and we would open for Jerry Reed. I think it was like for 2 weeks we opened for him down in Branson. And I never ever sang Dad's music, but Michael Twitty did a lot of his dad's, so I incorporated a couple of Dad's songs in my show also,
Yeah.
And now I'm doing tributes for Dad with just his music, which I never thought I'd ever be doing in a million years,
Yeah, you've released albums and all sorts, and every song that you cover has to have a kind of reason behind it, doesn't it? You wouldn't just do a Glen Campbell song just because.
Right, exactly. When I released my CD a couple of years ago, I picked songs that had a lot of meaning to me.
Yeah.
And but then on the other hand, Toby, I would have put other songs on the albums had I thought that I would ever be singing them. Like I never dreamed I'd be singing Wichita Lineman, and now that's not on my album. I sing Try a Little Kindness. I sometimes do Gentle on My Mind. I do Phoenix, and then some other songs that meant, a lot to me. There's songs I won't touch, like Country Boy. The guys in my band sing Country Boy. The men's songs. I do Rhinestone Cowboy, but I do it with my band, also doing it with me,
Why won't you touch them? You say it's the men's songs, but why are they the men's songs?
I don't see myself singing Southern Nights, Country Boy, I suppose I could do it. It's just, and I have a hard time doing Gentle on My Mind. Gentle on My Mind was one of Dad's most iconic songs, but it's just not one that I like performing, I guess.
What would you say is your favorite of all his songs?
That I sing or favorite?
Well, let's go for both, shall we? Just in general, and then also your favorite one to sing.
I like I Will Never Pass This Way Again. That's one of my favorite that Dad did. One that he used to do on stage in Vegas that is like my absolute favorite to hear Dad sing was Stars. He would have a big video of all these different artists that have come and gone, and he'd be singing stars, they come and go, they come fast, they go slow. And then he'd bust through the video for, the screen and come out singing, it was just so beautiful. I mean, it was just so magical to watch Dad do anything for that matter, But my favorite songs I like to sing are Wichita Lineman, By the Time I Get to Phoenix, and of course, I'll Try a Little Kindness. Those are some of my favorites that I like to sing.
And Wichita Lineman, I know it's maybe obvious, but it probably is my favorite Glen Campbell song, but not just my favorite Glen Campbell song, but one of my favorite songs of all time. It's just one of the best songs ever written, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Jimmy Webb sure knew how to write songs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And what was your dad like when he wasn't performing?
Oh, he was a cut up. He was so much fun. I mean, we spent so much time golfing, playing cards. We played cards all the time, endlessly. We'd sit in hotel rooms and watch Wheel of Fortune and bet a quarter to see who could get the phrase correct. Him and Roger and I, my dad's agent. We had so much fun. I mean, I was so blessed, Toby, to be able to spend those years with Dad, because I never really got to be with him one-on-one as a child through all the marriages and the other kids. Yeah. So that was really special for me. We both got our relationship that way. I mean, it was very magical.
And even after he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, he was still performing initially, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he sure was.
What was it like in those times?
Well, Dad and I used to do By the Time I Get to Phoenix and Say a Little Prayer, and we did it together. I would sing Say a Little Prayer and he would sing Phoenix. And after a while, when the Alzheimer's was setting in, it was the early stages. He would forget what part to come in on. And so then we just stopped doing that song and he would do Phoenix by himself, You made those provisions that way.
And you wrote the book Life with My Father, Glen Campbell. Was it hard to write the book?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was going through some really traumatic feelings at that time because when Alzheimer's set in, my stepmom decided that she wanted to change everything up and get her kids involved because, now that Dad's got Alzheimer's, well, this is the last, get the kids on the road and get their music known. And so she let go of Dad's band of 25 years and she let go of me eventually, I need my kids to be on the road with him now, so there's no place for you on stage. And that was very, it was kind of like a slap in the face to me. Here I was on the road with Dad all those years taking care of him while she stayed home with her kids and I'm away from my kids, because it was a job. I was making money, so I was supporting my family, but at the same time, I'm getting to be with my dad. So there was a difference, and for her to, after 25 years of me taking care of Dad while she got to stay home with her kids, that was like a slap in the face to me. And it was very, I had a lot of emotions. And so I thought, you know what? It took so long for me it took a lot of years going down this road and finally ending up having a relationship with my dad through 3 other marriages and 7 other kids. And I did it. And Dad and I became best friends through all of that. And so I just wanted to tell my story like that. And it was very cathartic for me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It helped me get a lot of my feelings out that I'd felt all those years.
To get rid of the band that you'd had for so many years is sort of the opposite of what you should really do when someone has Alzheimer's.
Absolutely. You need to keep them with what they've known. And I mean, it would make Dad crazy. It would. And they kept me away from him. I mean, they wouldn't give me credentials to where I could come to any show I wanted or my kids and come backstage, which was really crazy. And Dad, I brought it up to him in the early throes of Alzheimer's, and he was so upset. He yelled at his management, "Don't you ever keep my daughter away from me or my grandkids." But they did. That was all Kim's doing. They bowed down to Kim and didn't want to lose their jobs, by going against her wishes. And it was really, and I remember when I was let go, it was in September of 2011, and I'd already cleared my schedule from flying because I could take vacation in the months that I knew we were going to be on a big tour, and we were coming to England. We were doing England, Ireland, and Scotland at that point. Wow. And I cleared my whole schedule for those 2 months, and then they called me and said, "You're not on the tour anymore." So I had to shuffle and get work, because I have to work to support my family.
Yeah.
And I thought, a lot of the friends that I had made along the way, like the crew over in England that would sign on to work the tour, or the drivers, I had already been in contact with all of them. They go, "We can't wait to see you again, Deb." And so I thought, I'm going to go because I still had my credentials for that year, because they don't expire till the end of December. And then we would always get new backstage passes. And so my son and I flew over to London. I thought, this is my way of closure. I'm going to go see the show and bring my son with me. And they were so shocked. And the minute I walked backstage, Dad's like, "Oh my God, Debbie, you're here. Oh, I'm so happy. You're going to sing with me." And I'm like, "Dad, I'm not here to upset the show at all. I just wanted to come to England and say goodbye to everybody, how wonderful it was working with them all these years." And I just said to myself, if Dad remembers to bring me on stage, then of course I will go on stage and sing. But if he does not remember, then I'm not going to, hey, what about me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he was in the throes of Alzheimer's at that time.
And when you were writing the book, did you discover anything that you didn't already know?
I did, Toby. And it's crazy because, I watched the Elvis movie. So many similarities of the behind the scenes of management and all those people in Dad's life that I wrote about. When I take myself out of the picture, I look back and think they were just like Colonel Tom Parker, They took advantage of Dad for their own needs. And gosh, if I could just go back and say some things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we flew to New York. and Dad was playing Carnegie Hall. And so a couple of my kids went, and my granddaughter, Olive, who was very young at the time, they had played they had played New York, and Bill McClay, my dad's road manager, had given her a backstage pass. Well, I thought, well, I can get back and see Dad with this pass. So I took it. Well, the reason I took it is because I had a friend here in Phoenix that was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so Ovation had sent me a guitar that I could have Dad sign, and it would be auctioned off to raise money for her. And so I took that guitar with me all the way to New York. Well, I didn't want to sit out in the audience with it, so I wanted to put it backstage, and so that's why I got Olive's pass and went backstage with the guitar. And the first words out of Stan's mouth, which was my dad's manager, "What are you doing back here?" And I looked at him, and, I was like the cowering kid, it's like I automatically, Toby, I went into kid mode. And instead of saying, "What do you mean, what am I doing back here?" I should have said, "He was my dad before he was your Glen Campbell," but I didn't, because that's the way it was, We didn't say things to upset the apple cart, but so many coulda, shoulda, wouldas would I have said had I had the gumption to,
Yeah. You've started your own show called the Debby Campbell Goodtime Show. What made you want to start that?
Well, I did that during COVID when nobody's out doing anything, and I'm sitting at home, and we weren't flying a lot. Even the airlines were suffering at that time. Yeah. And I thought, I got to do something. I got to just quit sitting around in my workout clothes with my hair in a ponytail. I got to do something, So I thought, what? I'll just do a Zoom thing. I'll interview people, and that's how it came about. And then it just snowballed into I did like 25 or 30 people, and it was a lot of fun. I was nervous. Because but I did my research on them, and I was very blessed to be able to get a lot of them to do it, And it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about people that, I didn't know, when you research them, and like Lee Greenwood could have been a baseball player. Charlie Pride was a baseball player back in the day, it's crazy what you learn when you really, Jeannie Seeley, she was like Porter Wagner's sidekick back then, and she got called to go on the road performing. That her career started taking off, and so then that's when Dolly Parton took over her place with Porter Wagner, and then look at Dolly Parton now, but just interesting stuff, about everyone.
Are the guests you've had mainly friends and people that you know and have worked with, or could it be anybody that you reach out to?
Well, a lot of them I knew, like Mickey Gilley. I knew Mickey. I'd met many of them. I met Peter Noon from the Herman Hermits. I met, just on the road being with Dad, we'd run into people everywhere, and a lot of them, though, I did know, like from Branson, I knew Tony Orlando, Mickey Gilley, Lee Greenwood, Mary Wilson. I knew Mary through Mark, my co-author of my book, because they were best friends. Just from being around them a lot, in the past. And then others like Danny Bonaducci from the Partridge Family. I've never met him, but I just knew somebody who knew him and asked if he'd do the interview, and he said sure. Barry Williams from the Brady Bunch, Donnie Most from Happy Days. It just kind of snowballed into a fun little gig.
It was mainly during COVID.
Yes.
Do you just not have time to do it anymore?
Well, I haven't, and I still have a couple of people that said they'd absolutely love to be interviewed, but a lot of them are on the road now. Because back when I did it, nobody was doing anything. They were all sitting at home. Nobody was touring. Yeah. So it was easy to get them then.
Yeah, COVID was an absolute gift for that. You just reach out to people that got nothing better to do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And what work have you done for Alzheimer's as well?
Well, I did a fundraiser in Manchester, England. I did one in Dublin. And I've done many walks here in Phoenix raising money, and people have come in from out of state to walk with me. Tanya Tucker came in and walked with me one year. Anything. And if anybody ever says, can you come and speak or perform for Alzheimer's, I'll do it. Absolutely. I'll be there. If you just provide a hotel room for me and transportation, I'll come for free,
When did you start doing this? Was this in light of your dad's diagnosis?
Absolutely. Yeah. I working 2 jobs and trying to raise kids, it's hard to get out and give your time, but but then once that diagnosis hit, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what's coming up for you? Have you got more projects and songs and albums and things musically?
It's funny. I was kicking around thinking I want to do a Christmas album, so I'm thinking that maybe I might get with my producer, Tony Mantor, in the beginning of the next year and maybe try and, Dad's Christmas album is my favorite Christmas album ever. The best Christmas album that I ever think that's all I ever play. And I thought, wouldn't that be fun to recreate that just for me? Maybe nobody wants to hear it. Maybe nobody wants to buy it. But for me to have, it'd be fun. It'd be a fun project.
Yeah. And what are you up to for Christmas, by the way?
My youngest son comes in from California with his family. And then my daughter lives here. I told my son in New York and my granddaughter in Chicago, I said, next year, everybody better be in Phoenix for Christmas. I want the whole family here. So that's my plan. But so we just kind of hang out here in Phoenix and, where it's in the 60s and we don't have snow or anything, but it's cold. I have been getting over to London quite a bit. I love it because, we fly from Phoenix to London. So I do work those flights occasionally and I just love coming over there. And in fact, I did a trip a couple of weeks ago and we walked like all through Notting Hill and went to the Portobello Market and, just all the thrift shops. I love going to the thrift shops and looking at all the fascinators. I haven't found many, but next time I'm going to, I love fascinators. I want to buy them. I think they're just the coolest darn things, But and then in April, around Dad's birthday, where he's buried in Arkansas, we have, which we've only had one because we started it I think right before COVID, and we haven't had another one since. And so I think this year we'll have a big fundraiser in Arkansas. We're raising money. We want to get a statue of Dad built at the cemetery. And it's really a neat thing. My cousin Stevie, he's done a great, the cemetery, the Campbell Cemetery is on my uncle's land. And so they've rigged up a huge speaker. And when you step on to the cemetery, Dad starts singing Amazing Grace. Of course, it could scare the crap out of somebody if they're going there at night, But, but it's pretty darn cool. And it has a historic marker. So we want to get a big gold statue or bronze statue of Dad up at the cemetery. We think that'd be pretty awesome. And you would believe all the guitar picks that are left on his tombstone. It's amazing the people that go through there and pay him honor, pay him homage.
Well, where are we able to keep up to date with you?
Well, I have a Debby Campbell music.com page. I haven't done much updating to it. I need to get in there. But so if I have a tour somewhere, then yes, I post it up on my Debby Campbell music.com page. And then I have a Facebook page, an artist page, Debby Campbell, and they can go there. I usually post updates on that also.
Excellent. Well, many thanks for talking to us today. It's been great to have you on the show.
Oh, Toby, thank you. Thank you for writing. And anytime.